Okay, on this episode, this is just a note, this is not the episode. So, this episode is going to be about being aware so that you stay ready, so you ain't got to get ready, so you stay ahead of the agenda so that the agenda doesn't stay ahead of you, so that you don't allow the mental manipulation and the psyche manipulation to impact your reality and your discernment or your best judgment, and realizing the infiltration of negative depictions and false depictions, because they're illusions that distract you from the reality and fuel these false senses of self and these false narratives that we've been fed for over and over. As Black people are awakening, the agenda is getting, how can I say, it's trying harder. They're trying harder to keep the same oppressors that have kept the Black spirit down for centuries is continuing as the Black consciousness elevates and arises. It's like when you look historically, every time Black people have persevered through a tough phase in our lives, something happens to infiltrate more oppression within our spirit. And it's like, I feel like right now the biggest tactic is using the things that we use in our culture to uplift our spirit to infiltrate these negative thought processes, like the music, the media. You want to play this, all the music like depicting women in this way, men in this way. And then you have the social platforms where every person is spewing out their personal traumas and their personal biases that are perpetuating these false narratives and these false ideas, because we're preaching from a place of trauma. We're preaching from the conditioning that we have. We're preaching from the mental constructs that we have, not realizing we are not these things, not realizing that we are not these thought processes. We're showing the traits that have kind of been adapted into our life. We're showing the behaviors that we have kind of like adapted out of survival or out of coping or, just getting by. These tactics, for instance, we all have paranoia, narcissistic, egocentric traits within our mind. But it's like knowing that that's just the way that the mind has evolved. It doesn't mean that it's you. To get past the mind, to transcend the mind, you have to realize more and more that you are love and light. You are not those thought processes. And every time you have a thought that does not feel like, love and light, then you have the choice to choose if you want to adapt that thought and identify with it, or if you want to separate yourself from it and just say, oh, that's just my judgment. That's just me being prejudiced. That's just me being racist. That's just, my mind, not even me. That's just my mind being narcissistic at the moment. That's just my anxiety talking. That's just my fears talking. That just yada, yada, yada. You get the picture. But it's not you. The more you separate yourself from your mind, the more you can control it, and you step into the driver's seat and not allow your mind to stay in the driver's seat. The ego, aka monster mentality, and all of these mental constructs that never served us. I know they say like no longer serves us. This our mentality, the mentality that is in the collective has never served the Black mind. Has never served the Black soul or Black spirit, because it puts us at the bottom of every spectrum, at the bottom of every totem pole. Like we're And in knowing, the more and more you know who you are, the more and more you won't allow people to define you, manipulate you, or control your actions, and, trigger you to give you these impulse reactions. And you're able to tap more into your higher self and look at things from a higher perspective and, not let it control you. Like, I don't get me wrong, I like some good ratchet, raunchy, trap music, rap, whatever, all the above. But the difference is, I know now when I'm listening to something too long, and now it's fueling feelings that don't serve me. You know what I'm saying? Or it's fueling some depressed feelings. Y'all know the people I'm talking about. You got some rappers and singers out here who the whole album is just dang near depressing. And if your perspective is, this is woe is me music, victim mentality, if those are the feelings it's fueling for you, then you need to stop listening to it. But some people can have a different perspective, and they can just say, well, I just have empathy. I just look at it as kind of like, this is something we go through, and it's just, it doesn't make me feel like I'm a victim. Like I said, everybody has their own point of views. But I know for me personally, when I've listened to something for too long, when something is making me sad or something is making me resentful, and this is why one of the main reasons why I don't watch the news and storylines. Listen to the word storylines, because a lot of times the news and the media, especially like, platforms, social media platforms, they portray images of us in a negative light. We don't really know what's fact. The news is perceived as fact. It's supposed to, but who are we to say that producers are integrity? How do we really know what's fact? Unless you really know these people, we don't know what, like, people don't realize that actors are really out there. Like, there is coverage in the media that is portrayed as fact, but really it's actors used to portray this idea of dividing and conquering. And what I'm noticing a lot is the black family and the black male and black female is under attack. This idea that black men and black women can't coexist without some kind of chaos, without some kind of trauma, without some kind of abuse, or, is really being prevalent right now in the media, in the music. The music, every guy's music is like talking about how women don't know what they want. They just, they say ungrateful, yada, yada, yada. They foolish, they ain't no good. And every song you hear about the, woman saying is, I'm an independent woman, I don't need a man for nothing, and whatever, forget these sorry niggas. Like, everything is about not embracing the true essence of who we are as souls, but it's focusing on this, these negative depictions. This to me is like part of that socialized racism, what we've grown up hearing over and over and over and over and over. The conditioning also impacts me in my own personal life through maneuvering in my relationship, and as I grow, and we go through things, and relationships, sometimes the flame dwindles, and you have to reignite it. But we also have to realize we do carry the baggage of the programming that we have about maybe not being able to trust men. We feel like all men ain't something, or all females is want to be thoughts and all this other stuff, and it's just like, that's not really true. So just being able to recognize what's the reality and what's not. What is programming in your mind and what is not. When you start having like feelings of distrust or feelings of this, sometimes look within yourself. What could be sparking that thought? Did you have trauma in the past? Have you been in situations where you had a lot of exes who may have mistreated you? Do you have sexual trauma? Do you have programming where you overheard your aunts and aunties and moms talking about men or men? Did you see your mom getting treated bad by a woman, or did you see your mom being with a lot of men, and or did you see, or did the fathers blame your mother for stuff and all this? Like, you have to like really start evaluating and assessing, where do these thoughts come from in your head? Because even though we all are one mind and we all tend to have those same mental constructs, our personal experiences are what personalize the specific types of thoughts we have. So it's like, yeah, we all have one mind, and the foundation is kind of the same, like paranoia, anxiety, and fears. But what makes it individualized is when the thoughts start to, be specific. Like, your anxiety can be specifically about losing your family or danger, imminent danger for your family. And that may be something that maybe a white person may not have a lot because fear has not been beaten into them about their life. You know what I'm saying? Like, they may not fear their life and they may have peace of mind when it comes to that, but maybe their fears may be of achievement, of having this certain type of accolade, different types of things. So it's kind of just understanding that culture does play a role, and you can break it down further and further. Culture, then your family, then your community, then your relationship, then your individuality. So there's different layers of how the mind is develops. And so this is what I'm saying, like, be mindful of how media triggers you and how you're allowing things to feed into you, and you can still listen to music if you know it's just music. If you can see that the message doesn't pertain to you and you don't have to adopt that way of thinking and those words and take it as fact. We need to stop putting people and celebrities and different people, anybody, any human on a pedestal. We have to realize we come down here with flaws, in a sense, and the flaws is the negativity, the density that surrounds us, that we have to transcend and get through and heal to see our true selves, which is not the outer layer, which is not the physical attributes of ourselves, which is not the mental setbacks. And also within the Black community, we have to destigmatize this notion, like destigmatize anything revolving around being less than perfect. In the Black community, there's a lot of secrecy and privacy because, we have a lot of shame and guilt around having any mental illness, any psychological issues, any emotional issues, any physical issues. It's like we have to portray this image of we good no matter what, because society continues to give us a short leash. It's kind of like we can't get away with nothing. Not that we're trying to, but it's like the minute we make a mistake in life, like we're not human, we're bashed, we're beaten to the, we're just stripped of everything. But it's like you rarely see any other races get drugged for the mistakes that they make in life. And it's like, out of everybody who deserves something, for Black people who go through so much publicly and like socially, like, you would think we would get a little bit more leeway to go through our journey without so much shame, guilt, and judgment. But this judgment and this shame and this guilt is why, as Black people, it's so hard for us to heal, and why we go through these psychotic breaks and losing our mind, because we don't know how to detach from our mind, and we don't know that we aren't our mind. We are not our thoughts. I have worked with my mind so intensely because the mind is very essential, not in the sense that you should live in it and just be so focused up there, but it's essential in the healing process, because in order to get past something, you got to go through it. In order to heal it, you got to be aware of it. Like I always say, awareness is 90% of the work. But the way you do that is not through judgment, shame, or guilt. You have to have love. Love conquers all. You have to start going into your heart and tapping into that love. You have to start observing the thoughts and assessing and reflecting on them and reframing them, which is basically shifting or changing them to heal them. If you don't know better, how are you going to do better? Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. And, I was thinking about this because, so I was getting my hair done, and, my friend was kind of pulled into a situation where one of her male friends made a post about, I guess, some athlete has had some allegations of like sexual assault to women or something. And so the guy was saying, he made a post saying, do you guys think that this person really raped this girl or something like that, or really raped her? And it was a picture of her. And so my friend's sister, made a post and I guess was quote unquote going in on him, because she said rape has no like look, in a sense, like anybody can get raped. It doesn't have anything to do with looks. And his argument was that he never mentioned looks, but This is why I say the power of perspective and why assuming is the devil. Because yes, he never technically said anything about the girl's looks in the initial question. But the way he worded it could be leading in a way where anybody could assume that, especially if you have a personal bias or experience that has made you triggered, or it hits, it touches a soft spot for you. So this is why I say being mindful of your traumas, and which takes time, because I was there too. And so I understand and have compassion for both aspects. But I also feel that he has a responsibility, and this is the accountability that I talk about. He has a responsibility that as a man who wants to create questions, to spark conversations and gain perspective of people, you have to be very neutral. I don't like to say people have to be, but if you don't, then don't complain about the backlash or the response you get if you're not taking the responsibility for the platform you're choosing to embark on. When you want to make a post to gain people's perspective, you should have a neutral standpoint. If not, don't get angry when someone questions your motives or your perspective. Are you putting your personal perspective in this, or are you just trying to get other people's perspective? Because when you start liking certain posts and not liking certain ones, or you laugh at this post and not laughing at this one, it can be seen. It will start to look, you have that responsibility. And I'm not saying that one person is right, one person is wrong. It's not about right or wrong, but it's about you take this platform as a messenger, as a conversation starter. Then you need to realize that you should be making disclaimers. You should be saying, at the end of the day, this is all speculation, and I respect everyone's opinion, but we will never know. Even if the news says, we will never know. I don't care if this girl get on the camera and makes a freaking full-fledged confession saying this or that. Do you know how many women have been paid off or fear their lives? And this is all to feed the narrative that a woman, the rape culture idea that the woman is not the victim, even if she is the victim, that she has some kind of ill intention or ulterior motive to get raped. But it also is a depiction that, yes, some women do make that, do things like that for money. But if you want to mention that, then you also have to mention the fact that men also know that they live in a patriarchal, sexist world, and they have a place of privilege, and sometimes they will play on that and to get out of a situation knowing that they really did rape this girl. At the end of the day, no means no. I don't care if your thing was in there and you got a couple pumps in. If I say no, that's it. Point blank, period. That's it. There's no more explanation than that. And so it's like being able to put all perspectives out there. That is how you show a neutral, objective standpoint, not just leading in the woman's the woman being scorned, or the woman being not with the woman just being right or the woman just being wrong. It's about, there's a possibility of the woman being right and wrong. There's a possibility of the man being right or wrong. We don't know. What we need to do is use this situation to spark the conversation of, let's gain perspectives from a compassionate place, not a place of man bashing and woman bashing, because now you're feeding into the agenda of this divide and conquer, black male against black female narrative, that we cannot have a conversation to uplift our community and to empower us and to heal us without fueling it with hate. You cannot fight fire with fire. You're never going to get, for one, men and women have to understand when the delivery of communication is important. When speaking to a man, you need to speak with a sense of respect and the fact that they don't want to be emasculated. And when speaking to a woman, you want to speak in a sense of respect and the fact that you're not being abusive or degrading to her. A woman wants to feel compassion, and a man wants to feel respect. You know what I'm saying? And this could be different from different men, but this is just my perspective. And the point is, at the end of the day, what it's about is you have to cultivate that respect, and you have to look at a person as a human and not as talking to them like trash or disrespectful. Realize that this is just a scenario, and this is something that can be a teachable moment, and not something that's about exploiting the situation or being triggered because you don't win battles that way. I know that may be what we've been told, but you don't win battles by coming off angry and popping off. You can have passion. Don't get it twisted. You can have passion. Like right now, somebody may say she sound angry. I have no no ill feelings at all. My mood is great. But I have passion when I speak about my people and the things that are being infiltrated in our culture that are not true to who we are. Don't get fooled and don't get tricked and all the mind F's that are out there. Because the media and the music is some of the biggest mind F's that we have. So be mindful of that and be aware of it. So the next time you see a storyline, you see a narrative, don't play into it. Don't fall for that trap. Stay woke, conscious, and aware. Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. These are the things you need as you're growing and healing, because trust me, there's going to be a lot of traps. There's going to be a lot of roadblocks. Sometimes the universe throw these curveballs at you to see, are you really about it? Are you really about the growth and the elevation and the evolution and the change? That's why it's called practicing positivity. It don't mean you can just wake up one day and just be able to stay positive. Sometimes you're going to get triggered. It's okay. Sometimes you're going to have misogynistic thoughts or narcissistic thoughts or egocentric thoughts or sexist thoughts. Even as women, what we don't realize is, as a black person, you can have a racist thought. As a woman, you can have a sexist thought. We're one mind. So you assuming that the girl is lying too is almost sexist. You get what I'm saying? So it's like being aware of these thoughts and how we've been programmed to make our assumptions. That's how you get ahead of the mentality and the mental constructs and how we've been conditioned and programmed. So yeah, the next time you're having these thoughts, try to identify what it is. So that way you can compartmentalize it and get it out the way and say, oh, this is just, these thoughts come from this kind of upbringing. These things I heard growing up, or these things I watched growing up. Oh, and this thought comes from, I just have a lot of fear. I grew up with a lot of anxiety and yada, 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 and all this other stuff. So just being able to separate yourself, knowing that at the end of the day, that's not you. That's just a conditioning that you've had based on the experiences that you've gone through. And that's how you gain your power. When you're able to say that that's not you, and you know who you are, and can't nothing tell you who you are other than a child of God and love and light and unstoppable. Surround yourself with that positivity. Protect your peace in that sense. It don't mean go around being scared and feel like you can't step out there in the world, because once you know, you good. Once you know and you got that stern foundation, that stable, stern foundation of God and faith, and you know who you are, nothing can shake it. And sometimes it can. Sometimes things may shake. That's okay. Sometimes you do lose your way in the process, in the journey. And sometimes you fall off the wagon, or, you get that flat tire. I'm just using my car analogy. You know what? You pull right over to the road and you change that tire and you get back on that journey called life. It's okay. When that happens, don't beat yourself up. Don't let the inner critic start popping up. You say, you know what? This is just part of the lesson. What did I learn from this? Reflect on it. What did I learn from this? It's not a regret. It's not a mistake. It was a teachable, learnable moment. But yeah, guys, this is just about being aware of the media manipulation and the socialized racism and how it affects the further programming and further conditioning our minds to make us feel a certain way about ourselves and our people when we are none of those things. But yeah, as always, someone who cares, a spiritual activist. Peace, love, light, and healing energies. Be open to receiving them. Keep God first. I love you guys. Peace out. Hey, y'all. So I was just thinking about the media once again and the manipulation, just watching stuff. And I call it manipulation because of how the media highlights certain things and other stuff can slip through the cracks. Like I'm watching the Food Network and, I see a very well-known chef, and she's making meals, and she's always making meals for her husband, and they just have such a picture perfect relationship, and you don't really know if they do, but it's like this is why I say representation matters, because as a black person, you grow up and you don't really ever see anyone who looks like you from a positive light. Then you don't really have good representation of healthy relationships and all this other kind of stuff. And I was just thinking about this other, black couple that used to be on Food Network, and how their marital issues was like, how can I say, broadcasted. Like it was on at 5 o'clock. It was on so much stuff, and I'm like, it was just drugged through the mud. And it's like, that's what they drag black people through the mud when they do something wrong. It's like we're always under this microscope, and it's not to justify what people do when they do something wrong. They do something wrong, but it's like we're constantly under this microscope, and everything we do, it gets exacerbated and just blown out of proportion. And it's like, especially, I just hate how every time we have someone that we look up to in our community, some kind of celebrity or icon, they find some way to tarnish their name towards the end of their legacy. And like, even if they like gone, like, passed away, they still try to do something to tarnish their legacy. And it's just like, these types of things is what makes us internalize so many conspiracy theories, so much internalized like feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, because it's just like every time we try to come up, we're constantly being pulled back down, and the representation we have is always being like tarnished. That name, that person's what's that word when they use in court, where it's like it's like a defamation of character, like they just kind of like defaming them and taking away their cred and the good things they've done by the few mistakes. And it's like there was a black pastor who had cheated on his wife, and he was drugged through the mud. And it's like, people forget, and this is why you can't put people on the pedestal, because everyone is human. Just because a person makes a person's doing all this good stuff and they make one mistake, and it's like all of a sudden all of the good things they did is forgotten. And that's what happens when the media puts this highlight on all the negative things, and it's usually the people of color who are getting the backlash of their mistakes. I'm like, we're human, and the thing is, we've endured way more in society than a lot of other people, and yet when we make a mistake, it's so highlighted and so drug out. And these are the things that make us frustrated, and why when we see a black person, we hold them to a high standard. It's like we feel like if they make us all look bad because they made a mistake. No one can make a whole community look bad, for one. And for two, a person making a mistake shouldn't make you look bad. We should normalize that we're human, and a lot of times we make mistakes. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to light, and just don't let the media tarnish your image of how you feel about yourself, or mold you into, something you're not, or make you feel like you're something you're not, or just because you see a depiction of someone who looks like you, or who you feel like looks like you, doesn't mean that that's the way that you behave, or you have to internalize that same guilt or victimized way of being. You know what I mean? So, yeah, just want to kind of spread that out there. Black drama. Don't fall into the trap of playing out these old narratives that are like dysfunctional to the black community. Like the dark skin versus light skin, bro code, men choosing, that loyalty with their partners, or women choosing loyalty with their partners, or whatever, girls, or the black man versus the black woman, the how can I say, the domestic violence type stuff that be in the media with well-known celebrities. Y'all know what stories I'm talking about. I don't have to mention them, but just don't believe every narrative that you hear or that you see, because the media uses actors and actresses. Yeah, they may not be actors and actresses, but they're doing it. They're playing a role just to perpetuate these narratives that fuel so much dysfunction and dividing within our community. And divide and conquer is a true, real tactic. Don't fall into it. Don't hate your brothers, and don't hate your sisters. You know what I'm saying? Love thy neighbor, especially your own people. Like, don't fall for the trap. Don't believe everything you see on music videos, on the news, on the media. Like I said, we always under this microscope and being used as pawns to fulfill, I feel like, agendas. Like, it's not a conspiracy thing. It's just that these are, I know from personal experience, the kind of emotions that it fuels. So it's like, be mindful of what you watch and just, do what you do and listen to what you like to listen to because you like to. Don't let the media stop you from supporting somebody. We don't know what's fact. We really don't. And it's all about just doing what makes you feel good. If you like a certain music and you feel like that person's name and drug in the mud, just still listen to it. That's you. Shoot, that music make you feel good, listen to it. Don't let the media deter you or change your opinion of something or a certain gender, or make you hate men or make you hate females or make you think these stereotypical thoughts, about females, about men, especially black men and black women. Just know how to think with your own mind and get out of that media matrix that keep you stuck in these false or illusions of what we are as people. We're more than what the media portrays of us, especially in the light that we're usually casted in. That's all. Hey, y'all, this is another little quick rant about media manipulation. Yeah, I ever get frustrated with the fact that, everything is geared towards the more Eurocentric standard of everything. Like you Google something and it's all a bunch of white pictures. Like I was trying to send my cousin a congratulation image, and you put it and every image is of white people. Or when you're on these little popular apps that have these generated pictures that you can add to work or cards, and you create all kind of electronic type invitations, cards, posters, business, all kind of things like that. It's all white people. Or even just like on the keypad of your phone, when you try to put a picture of a black person. They're getting better at it now, but it's like when I tried to do the family one, it's so funny that they got black versions of everything, but when it came down to the family, you can't choose the skin tone. You can't change that. And it's like that was a little disheartening that the family construct didn't have the option to change the skin tone. And I was like, that's a little weird. But you got it for the pregnant woman, the working out, all these other things, which is great. I'm not knocking any level of growth and evolution, but come on. You could change that too. Please get on it. Even autocorrect. I'm like, bro, let me put my slang in there. Stop putting stuff that don't even go. Autocorrect be dumb. I'm like, how are you getting that out of that? And I'm like, you just don't want me to put what I'm finna put. But that's just me being dumb, y'all. But seriously, representation matters, and it gets frustrating when you never can see representation that looks like you in anything. And it's like you gotta specify hair products for black person, or exercises for black person, or something medical for black. You gotta specify that. Y'all want us to stop playing the race card that y'all say we play all the time. How can we stop playing something that we have to specify all the time just to get to the right knowledge that works for us? Because there is no one size fits all with a lot of things, and it's like we need to start understanding that and making it more accessible, and making information accessible and catered and geared to specific ethnicities, groups, races, because it's not about racism, it's not about dividing and conquering, but we do have to acknowledge that there are differences in things based on, you think my black mind is the same as somebody else's mind? I don't think so. The black mind has adapted in many different ways. That's why there's something called black psychology, and that's why there are things called feminist and then versus womanist, because these things we were being marginalized in matters that affected us, but we weren't being highlighted or represented. And just like the post-traumatic slave syndrome, when it comes to trauma, how can I say, interventions, we were lacking, despite the fact that we are the main group of trauma that has lived on for centuries without any type of real gearing. It's all about these other well-known genocides or other things that we highlight, which is nothing wrong with helping other communities and ethnicities and races heal. But when are we going to get the representation and the intervention that we so desperately need? That's why I say until other people start fighting for us, we have to fight for ourselves. And this is why I go out of my way to find books with little black boys on it for my son. I go out of my way to find YouTube channels with little black boys on it that are in positive lights. This is why Black Panther has so much good praises, because it was for the first time where black people felt this representation of black pride in the good aspect of, feeling like we had some representation that was positive, uplifting, and connected to our roots. And yeah, that's all I want to say.